Hello and welcome to the latest edition of New Haven Independent Vlog News Summary, direct from our assignment desk, otherwise known as my compost heap. Let's see what stories we're working on at this hour. Well, here's the first stone I can find, and I am not going to cast it at anyone, including I'm not going to cast it at Carl Jacobson. He screwed up. He admitted to taking money for personal use out of the department's confidential informative fund. You can't do that as police chief. He will face consequences, big consequences for his life. But a person is not measured by only their worst moments. Carl Jacobson had a great career as a New Haven cop. He helped keep people safe. He cared about police officers and their safety. He held people accountable for their crimes. He got to know and care about and give comfort to families affected by crime. And he got to know the young people who committed crimes. He knew they were not the sum of only their worst moments, but something more. And he held them accountable, and he also worked to help them to have a better life. And most of us have all slipped up. Most of us have our demons, and we can still care about each other while justice plays out. Well, soon when you go to George and Sherman and you look up in the sky, 177 feet up in the sky, a 20-foot sign, maybe not this one, will point you to the Yale Neuroscience Center. Yale wanted to make sure while they're building that new center that everyone could find it. But to put up a sign like that, they needed zoning permission from the Board of Alders, which gave it to them. But one alder voted no to register a point that we don't always think about in our day-to-day working of government. Sarah Miller voted against giving that zoning relief, even though it otherwise passed. And here's what she said. We often speak about Yale University paying their fair share to the city, and at the same time we vote through many items at the request of the university. As long as the fair share is not being paid, we shouldn't be voting through these requests. Sarah Miller is not the only one having her voice be heard in the longer quest for justice. And thanks to that, we can now get our carry-on bags soon and fly on a Velo Airlines from New Haven without participating in the evil fascist anti-immigration regime of the Trump administration. As you remember, Velo Airlines is in financial trouble, so they took a big contract from the Trump administration to send on their airplanes people snatched off the street, often did nothing wrong, but they weren't here legally, or sometimes they even were, and being sent without justice to deadly prisons in other countries. People protested, people boycotted. Now Velo has changed its mind, whatever the reason, and they're no longer gonna do those flights, and we can flight and we can march on. Well, Woodbridge, like other suburbs, is still doing its best to make sure that shovels don't go in the ground to build more housing or affordable housing in their towns that were created in part to stay away from people like us in the city. Woodbridge did allow a 96-unit housing development with some affordable units to be built near the border of New Haven. The town rose up in arms, so the Democrats and everyone else just voted last week to not do that anymore. They changed their zoning back. They come up with high-minded reasons for why they do it, but someone who spoke at that hearing, as quoted in a report in The Independent by Mona Mahadevan, said the following. I chose to move to Woodbridge because of the school system, said a father of 2 children. More housing, he argued, will ruin schools by forcing them to accept a lot more students. So it's out there what it's about. We have 13-year-old Marshall Curry died this week, as did 16-year-old Destiny Ellis. Curry was driving a stolen car at 13, was in a high-speed chase from the police, crashed into a tree, and he died. And Destiny, who was 16 years old, died in the front seat. They never had a chance. They never went to schools like that father in Woodbridge is sending his kids to. There's so much to be said and thought about and debated about all that led up to that tragedy. It's also enough to say that it's sad they didn't get the same chance to live and thrive the way some other kids will, and their lives were not just about their worst moment. Until next time, this is New Haven Independent Vlog News Summary. Remember, always pick up your trash and recycle it while we still can.